I'm doing the unthinkable and ranking all 212 Angry Video Game Nerd episodes from worst to first. Today, I'm going to start from the bottom of the shit barrel. Yeah, with my F- tier episode starting now with episode ranked 212. Vegas Stakes. This episode was painful for me. Early in the episode, when talking about casino games, he says,
"What am I going to explain about all these games? I mean, what am I going to go into all the rules of blackjack and just get all into it? I'll just sound like an instruction manual."
Which sets up the entire tone of the episode. Nothing to say. We go through some parody, then non-sequitur transitions to games, continuously pointing out that there's not much to review about the games, and then back to the parody. Like, if there's not much to say, then don't say anything at all. Like, don't do an entire episode about games you have nothing to say about. I hated the voice, I hated the sets, I hated the poor green screening, the awkward references to past episodes. I hated the parody, which I was completely alienated from. By minute 12 of 26, I was convinced this was my least favorite nerd episode, and I couldn't wait for it to end. Seriously, I only plowed through it for this video. Some might be saying, you don't get it. You've never watched Fear and Loathing. But to me, that's not great parody or even great comedy. My favorite episode of The Simpsons, for instance, was a Citizen Kane parody. I laughed from beginning to end even before I knew what Citizen Kane was. The Simpsons, South Park, and other great comedies parodied stuff all the time, but didn't alienate their fans. Knowing the source material may have helped, but it wasn't a requirement. If this was your thing, more power to you, but I think a lot more fans might agree with me on this one. 211, chronologically confused about Kingdom Hearts. Right off the bat, the nerd says something most fans already knew.
Now, I'll admit, I haven't played any of the games so far.
The grifting for views here was palpable in this episode. On top of it all, it was supposed to be a chronologically confused episode, and yet he goes into an entire history of the games and their stories.
But one night, the islands are attacked by evil monsters called the Heartless.
Which confuses me, because he started the episode with how he never played the games before, and then jumps into details with plot points about the games. He then even complains about issues with continuity. Again, for a game that he, James, the nerd, whoever, never played before. So, who exactly played these games? Kieran? Does Kieran exist in this universe? I'm fine with there being writers for the nerd, but there still needs to be some continuity. Like, if the nerd character says, I didn't play the games, then it makes no sense for him to go into great detail about the games themselves.
If you think you can play just the main 3 games and know what's up, then, think again.
He even starts getting annoyed about plot points, stating, well, that's all well and good, but how about explain all that shit? Explain what shit? You've never seen it.
These new characters are never mentioned anywhere in the first game, but all of a sudden they're the main characters? I haven't played any of the games so far.
The nerd was originally grounded by James and Mike, who were a voice for the audience that expressed a real kind of frustration for these games that many who watch played in the past. This incredibly fake anger rings hollow and is symbolic of the kind of zombie AVGN that existed in this time period. Even towards the end, he says,
but these games so far are pretty decent.
Like, again, which is it? Did the nerd play the games or not? This feels like a script written by 3 people who each wrote a page and stapled them together without any proofreading whatsoever. Here's a quote.
While the Disney stuff is kinda weird, it never feels out of place in the game's universe.
How would you know? And what irony, talking about something being or not being out of place. This whole episode was horribly out of place and horribly misguided. It maybe could have gotten away with being just an episode about how the titles had him too intimidated to ever start playing, but instead got padded with incoherent, fraudulent fluff. And finally, number 210, Hudson Hawk. The crime of the Hudson Hawk episode is trying to use old material that makes little sense given the game. He spends much of the episode making typical nerd jokes about how the game doesn't tie in with the movie.
The movie made more references to Nintendo than Nintendo actually made references to the movie.
The problem is the joke doesn't really land because it's about a movie that no one ever watched or a game no one ever played. And he never shuts up about whether this is in the movie or not.
We are heading deep into the territory of, remember that from the movie? In the movie, he does throw a baseball. In like one scene, next, we're on top of the Vatican, which actually happens in the movie. Man, there's a lot of electricity in this game. In the movie, I can only think of one instance where he gets zapped. By the end of the stage, it does follow the movie closely. Are there any sloths in the movie? I don't think so. In the movie, it's what they call Da Vinci's helicopter, but the game just says fuck it and makes it the mirrored crystal. Up till this point, it sort of followed the movie, but now they just gave up. Are there dogs in the movie?
Well, I have no clue. No one does. I don't know anyone who watched this movie. Like, seriously, name me one child, one, that was disappointed that NES Hudson Hawk didn't tie in with the original source material. What plagues the whole episode is going back to old tropes which don't fit the content.
Did they run out of ideas?
We even get cutscenes of the Hudson Hawk movie throughout the episode.
Stage 2, your mission is to rob the Vatican.
Robbing the freaking Vatican.
As if it's gonna elicit the same kind of nostalgia from the Back to the Future episode.
Holy shit!
And out of nowhere, Shit Pickle just shows up.
How'd the shit get on your head?
Shit pickle, shit pickle, shit pickle, shit pickle. Pickle, 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 shit pickle. Shit pickle, shit pickle. Shit pickle. Shit pickle.
Then he leaves again. Like, again, is this supposed to get nostalgic fans excited? It's Shit Pickle, not Luke Skywalker. Heck, maybe a visit from, say, Mike Matei, Bootsy, or Kyle Justin might have been nice. Alright, never mind. Those days are long gone. Ultimately, there is no point for this episode to exist. Alright, now that I've made some enemies, I'll point out here that I, myself, am obviously fan enough to rate every single nerd episode. So if you stick around long enough, you'll get to see me simp on my favorite episodes just like you would. But until then, I'll see you all for the less putrid F-tier episodes instead of F-. Be well.